Welcome, hello, and good afternoon to this session on the opportunities for entrepreneurs from pre-acceleration to scale up. It's our plan in this short session to share with you a few insights on the innovation startup ecosystem, especially in Italy, Europe, and to share some insights also on how COVID has actually impacted the innovation scene. I am substituting Federico Barilli, the director of Italia Startup. He was supposed to moderate the session, but due to technical problems, it was not possible, unfortunately. But I have with me three co-speakers. Nico Valentigato, he's the operating director of B4i, Bocconi Innovation. Welcome. He's directing together with me the innovation initiative in Bocconi. And we have a representative of the pre-acceleration program, Lorenzo Giovanni, CEO and co-founder of BAPI. Welcome to you. And then we have the follow-up process that Bocconi for Innovation is supporting, which is the acceleration program. And we have Nadia Necheva with us, the CEO and co-founder of Doctors in Italy. Welcome, and thank you for your time that you dedicate to this session here. So I'd like to start with a short comment on how COVID has impacted the innovation scene, and I think what we see is first of all that the crisis has highlighted the significance of innovation in the past, innovations that happened in the past decade. We have seen that connectivity is obviously fundamental. 5G is becoming extremely fundamental. We have seen that smart devices are important. We have seen that the software that is using these smart devices are more important, communication software. We have also seen that IoT, Internet of Things, so connecting objects with sensors that then communicate data to smart devices are becoming more and more important because we need to improve our possibility to actually remotely manage most or many processes. So innovation is more important. On the other side, we also see that from many reports and contacts that we have with accelerators, that actually the number of people that want to become entrepreneurs has increased. That's not surprising. You're sitting there in quarantine, you have done your daily job, and now you have more time. So what do you do with this time? You think about what you could do differently, and maybe you think about setting up a startup. So many people have started to think about startup ideas. Obviously, businesses they feel the pressure of this crisis, and they immediately, many of them have responded to this crisis with ideas, innovation ideas. So digital transformation, not only digital transformation, but simple things like I don't know, putting a plexiglass in front of a cashier, or equipping people with a device that measures actually distance to another person. I mean, simple innovation programs have started. So the pressure of innovation has increased. This is positive news. So if we really have to innovate, we innovate. So we should take this knowledge and transport this into other areas. I think we don't feel enough pressure in other areas like climate change. I mean, there is a huge pressure on becoming more sustainable in how we live, and we have realized that if we really want to, we can actually make a difference in a relatively short period of time in important areas. So this is one of the learnings that we have taken out here. Another learning, I think, from many reports from executives in large organizations is that distance modes of collaboration, remote working, has actually decentralized decision making. You actually need to increase your trust level, create a trust culture, trusting people and leading people, not with defining the tasks, but actually with defining objectives and then delegating in the ways they reach the objectives. This also has created more room for innovation in large multinational firms. So these are all positive, relatively positive things. On a negative note, we have seen that many countries, and I think Italy is not an exception, report that since January, funding for startups has dropped 30 to 50%. So that's a big number. So it's more difficult to get funding, and obviously it's even more difficult to get revenues. Like once you have started a company and now starting to sell the services has become more difficult. And we have seen reports of UK startups, for example. I see a survey here that 60% of the startups that have been surveyed in the UK have reported that their renegotiation their workspace rent or are in the process of doing so. 43% have stopped online advertising. 30% of startups have cut salaries or had to lay off people. So you have a startup that actually needs to use like turnaround management techniques to stay afloat. Obviously, this is a situation that we have not seen in the past in such a massive way. Now, Bocconi for Innovation. I think we, as many of you know, we are supporting three processes. We are supporting the pre-acceleration phase. This means that a startup team has an idea, a rough idea to launch a new service or a new product, and we help these teams to create a robust business plan around this idea. So in 12 morning sessions, we go through their business ideas and make them robust enough to eventually decide to abort, which is also a result, like fail fast, do it fast if you have to, or to proceed with the creation of a company. We have started our first batch, closed the first round of 20 ideas that we pre-accelerated. And as I said before, Lorenzo is going to talk a little bit about BAPI as one of the startups. Nadia is going to talk about how the acceleration program is working in B4i. We have started was 6 weeks ago, something like that. So in each week you have a sprint exercises to perform, and it's our goal that in a 4 months process to improve the robustness of a startup, and then help the startup to successfully go into the next phase, into the scale-up phase. That basically consists in attracting funding or finding industrial partners and find industrial partners to grow. That was my long introduction. I would like to start now by maybe asking Nico about B4i and about maybe also giving you a little bit more detail about how this third phase works, funding, before we then go into the acceleration and the pre-acceleration process. Nico, over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Marcus. Well, as you were saying earlier, finding funds at the moment might be a bit challenging for some of the startups in the fundraising mode, mostly because most of the funds that they will be talking to will probably be refinancing existing investments which need follow-on support in a crisis situation such as the one that we're living in now. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible to find funding. Actually, it can mean that there's an opportunity to show that you've managed to adapt to the new situation, maybe slightly changing your business model or your value proposition, and that you can prove that you've managed to, despite the difficult situation, grow, or, as I was saying, adapt and maybe evolve the business and the value proposition in a way that suits the current situation, the current scenario. And VC funds will be willing to listen to that kind of story and will be willing to invest into that kind of company, because it shows entrepreneurial drive and it shows an ability of the team to work together and to implement projects. Because let's face it, when a VC is thinking about an early stage investment, and when I say early stage, I mean seed and I'd say early Series A, the investment is mostly in the value and quality of the team and the ability of the team to implement the project and the business idea. And this can be further seen, I'd say, evaluated in a situation such as the one we're living in right now, where as I was saying, the value prop can evolve and change. And how should an entrepreneur go about this? Well, it's obviously about pitching and showing and telling the story in a clear and I'd say attractive fashion, and making sure that the terms that are being offered are advantageous. So, for example, not to get too diluted, or to have make sure that the investor that you're talking to can bring not just money, but the famous so-called smart money. And by that we mean money that comes with value added. And value added concretely means links to business opportunities, links to experts, links to possible sales channels, links to support in certain areas of operations of your business, such as legal, tax, communication, marketing, accounting. So it needs to bring a mid to long-term value that goes well beyond the initial financial investment. So a capable entrepreneur will be in the position to be able to choose who to take money from. And so the decision will come down to not just the terms, because hopefully the terms won't be that different between one investor and the other, but mostly to who you're bringing into your board, and therefore what value can those people bring in the mid to long term, because taking investment is a long-term relationship with between entrepreneur and the investors.
About the B4i programs, I think we are planning a session on the 2nd of July, and to participate, we are. I'm not sure whether this is possible to share in the live comments the link where you have to sign in. So please note down in your agenda if you're interested. 2nd July at 5 p.m. Milan time. We're going to talk a little bit more about the programs and the conditions and what it takes to how the selection process is going to work. Before I give the word to Lorenzo, Nico, can you say a little bit more about WAPI from our perspective?
Sure. Right. Well, so as you were saying earlier, WAPI is one of the companies that applied for the B4i program, and we accepted it for the pre-acceleration program. So what we've done with WAPI is a series of WAPI and the other 19 projects that were accepted to the pre-acceleration program. We had 12 sessions, 4 hours each, on different topics that spanned from anything like, basically what is a startup and what is the environment and who are the players you'll be working with. How do you prepare a go-to-market strategy? How do you prepare a digital marketing strategy? How do you prepare a pitch? How do you speak in public? How do you approach investors? So it's all basically, I would say, the basics that entrepreneurs need to grasp and be able to manage, so as to start building a company, start building their business. And WAPI, I'll let Lorenzo get into the details of what they do, but basically the idea is to democratize access to, I would say, satellite data for farmers, so that they can optimize the way they manage their crops and their land. And then I won't get into more details, because definitely that is Lorenzo's, it'll be his pleasure to explain WAPI in more detail. But what we did with WAPI was to basically support the business in going from an extremely early stage setup, where they were talking to potential partners, potential clients, and how to set up the business model, and how to maybe fine-tune certain aspects of the pitch, to a business that is ready to take it to the next level. And I'm very happy to say that they are taking it to the next level. They will be, receiving support to come closer to I'd say a seed company. So that is a very, very good result for the WAPI team, and I have to say also for the B4i pre-acceleration program, because it shows that the support has concretely helped Lorenzo and his team in taking the business forward. So that is, in a nutshell, what we did with WAPI, and what the pre-acceleration program, I would say, did for them.
Thank you very much. So Lorenzo, you're clearly an example of excellence. That's why you're here, right? So we're proud of having been able to work with WAPI. Tell us a little bit more about how it was to work with B4i in the pre-acceleration program.
I think the core of a pre-acceleration program is to validate all the assumptions that an early stage business idea is based on. When we started, you make a lot of assumptions, but you must never forget to validate all of them. Every single detail must be validated if you want to go from theory to the market. And that's where B4i added value. They had to understand this. You supported us during this process. At the beginning, we just had a business idea. Maybe it was a bright business idea, we will see in the future, but it was just an idea. Today, at the end of the pre-acceleration program, we have a product, we have customers, we have a deep understanding of how the market, how the industry works. And that makes a lot of difference. Of course, it's still a starting point, but it's a better starting point than when we started in January with you. Of course, I think that's the most important thing when you talk about pre-acceleration. You need to understand that at the beginning you have an idea, but the idea is just 1% of what you have to do to set up a company.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. We move on to Nadia, and the Doctors in Italy obviously is a startup that is close to, let's say, the COVID issue that we are facing right now, and COVID has maybe also changed your business model a lot, as your initial idea was to be a service for tourists and foreigners that travel to Italy and face a health issue for themselves or also for their pets, and then find a doctor through a platform. This has changed a little bit. So please tell us a little bit more about Doctors in Italy.
Sure. Well, Doctors in Italy is a digital platform that lets travelers find easily a doctor online, so that they can see a doctor within a day or two maximum. This is very important for a traveler, because if you're here in Italy for 1 week and you have been planning this for your whole life, you really don't want to spend your days in bed. So you want to see a doctor today, whether you're in Florence, in Rome, or in Milan, or wherever you are. And when, of course, COVID hit us in early March, we realized that we were facing an 80% drop in our revenues. So we had to think fast, and gladly we were right in the accelerator program. So we had also support in thinking and changing and adapting to what was happening around us, which has been really crucial for us. As a startup, I have to say that, startups are used to changing because you're still developing your business. You're not already a company that has been there for years. So you have to be ready to change and adapt to what's happening around you. So it's not so big of a change to adapt and to change into a different sector and to a different way to use your resources. But it's important to do it the right way and to do it fast. So that's what has been most crucial for us in this program, to be able to have support into speaking with the right people, connecting with the right people, and getting experience and feedback from companies and from people who can help us understand better how to enter this market. So that's how we went from being a platform for appointments in the office, appointments for a house call. We became a platform for online consultations. And not only for travelers, but for everyone, for Italian patients as well, for expatriates who live in Italy and who need assistance in English, for hotels who want to provide this service to their guests. So anyone who may need a doctor, and they can have a consultation online, right, using the same app, the same platform that we were using before.
Thank you very much, Nadia. A very interesting case, and also a good example of how you need to tweak your business model in an acceleration process. Now, one of the core, let's say, value propositions and objectives of B4i, Bocconi for Innovation, is that we combine business with tech, and to be able to do that, we needed tech partners, and we have developed a large ecosystem of tech partners. And most prominently, three: the IIT, the Italian Institute of Technology, the Politecnico of Milan, and the Milan University Statale. With these institutions, we collaborate, and maybe Nico, you can tell us a little bit more about this collaboration, what this really means for us and for the startups.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say how I think it's really, as you were saying, really important to build a network of partners who can add value and help us do our job for the entrepreneurs, meaning we need to facilitate. We must act as facilitators for the entrepreneurs to help them grow and develop their business. And we can't do that alone. And that's why we have partners such as the ones that you mentioned, so the IIT, Politecnico di Milano, and Unimi. And in terms of institutional partners and in terms of operational partners, we've partnered with Plug and Play as well. And so a few examples of what we're doing with these partners. First of all, with Unimi, as soon as we can, we will have access to their prototyping, I'd say, division, which can allow us to support entrepreneurs physically build products when we will have when we will be working with startups that have this need of physically producing a product. With Politecnico, we are. This might sound soft, but I think it's a fantastic sign. We are mutually promoting the calls of the programs of PolyHub, the Switch to Product, and Bocconi B4i. And I think this gives a very strong signal to the entrepreneurs in, I would like to say, not just Milan, hopefully Italy in general, that these universities know how to work together, because we know that there are synergies and that we can cover each other's, I'd say, not going to say gaps, but areas where maybe they can be better than us and where we can be better than them. And we are joining each other's juries to pick the best applicants when we reach the final stage of the decision-making process. And I think that too is a great sign of transparency. With IIT, we have one of the projects in the pre-acceleration program came from the IIT, and we are already setting up the application process for the next batch, and we're in contact with the IIT because we should be receiving another good handful of applications from the IIT, and hopefully we'll be able to pick some of them both for the pre-acceleration and the acceleration program as well. When it comes to the Plug and Play partnership, well, that is another great how can I say it, exposure to their network of investors, entrepreneurs, and mentors. We have already organized 2 sessions with Plug and Play, meaning that there were Plug and Play startups and Bocconi for Innovation startups that could join and listen to keynote speakers that we chose together. And there's an upcoming pitch session organized by Plug and Play where 2 of the companies that we work with in B4i will pitch, and the remaining 3 in the acceleration program will pitch at a future date at another Plug and Play pitch session. So what I'm coming to is that these partnerships are already translating into concrete support, because what an acceleration program has to do and a pre-acceleration program has to do is to facilitate, open doors, and support the entrepreneurs in developing their business. And doing this with partners and with a strong network obviously reaps much, much bigger and deeper rewards.
Thank you, Nico. I think that for Bocconi, it's extremely important to foster these collaborations with the technical areas. I imagine that to be able to understand what WAPI is doing, for example, you need to understand various technologies. You need to understand how much it costs to actually acquire satellite pictures. Maybe they are free. You need to understand that if you play it well for 200,000 euro, you actually have your own satellite in space. At least that's what people told me at Enea. You need to understand how to use this data, how to use data science actually to crunch data, get out information. So sometimes business people, I have the feeling we are over optimistic. We hear an idea and it's, oh God, this is so good. And then you go out, and it's not the case of WAPI. Then we go out there and say, but the technology is like, it's a commodity, okay? And then we get depressed, and But on the other side, the tech people, they do exactly the opposite. They are so excited about something new, but nobody can afford it because it's too expensive, or nobody's interested in it. So I think that the two areas they need to come together. The same for IoT systems. If you have an IoT system, usually what you do is you have 4 components. Component number 1, you have a sensor that you put on an object. Then that's component number 1. Component number 2 is the sensor sends data into a cloud. Component number 3 is that somebody needs to analyze this data and create some insights. And component number 4 is you need to be able to sell these insights with a business model. So very often we see that the sensors are commodity products. Obviously cloud-based systems are commodities. So what really counts is data science and business model innovation. So this is good news for business people like that Bocconi tries to generate or to educate. But in a lot of areas, obviously, we need the support of tech experts. Now we are slowly moving towards the Q&A session. If you're connected through YouTube, you have the possibility in the chat to actually submit the question. While you're doing that, I would like to start with Nico explaining a little bit better how we actually select startups. I'm not talking about pre-acceleration. Why do we select Nadia's doctors in Italy? And how can others access the acceleration program?
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, one needs to apply, and the application process starts from the website. Silly and simple as that may seem, but that's where it all begins. The application process is fairly simple. There's an initial bit where you basically insert your personal data, meaning name, surname, and that kind of stuff, and then you move on to more, I'd say, detailed questions about your business. So why do we choose Nadia, and in general, how do we pick companies for the acceleration program? It's not different from anything that any other investor would look at. So we have to look at the quality of the team, the quality and disruptive element of the idea, and the attractiveness of the market. These, I would say, are the three main things that we have to be convinced by. Then there are other elements that obviously are nice add-ons, and in some cases nice to haves. But even if they're not there, if those three core elements are convincing, then we'll choose that. So in Nadia's case, we actually received quite a lot of applications, just over 200 applications for the first batch. We immediately screened the first ones, which were, I'd say, some clear no's, meaning they didn't fit with what we were looking for. And then we moved into more detail into looking at the ones that were more attractive. And we looked at, for the accelerator case, we looked at some of the metrics that they had, because in some cases there were already some users and some active users, and maybe in some cases there were already some revenue streams we could look at. Then we talked to the team several times. We had various interview sessions to dig deeper into certain elements of the business model, of the quality of the product itself, the way it was being, I'd say, implemented, and we needed to know more about the background of Nadia and her co-founder as well. So, what is the relevance? How strongly did we believe that Nadia and her team was the best team at that time to work on that specific project? Because what you do is, as I was saying earlier, you're betting on the ability of the team to deliver a really cool project. So it's the mixture of those two things that I think I would say brought Nadia to where she is now, and hopefully a lot further. Clearly, this is just the beginning.
Yes, that's a very good point towards the question that I have received here from the chat. I'm going to ask both Lorenzo and Nadia to tell us where you want to be in 5 years, ideally. What's your vision? Okay, but now I give you like 20 seconds to think about it. Maybe you have it already in your business plan. It's already clear, but you don't need the 20 seconds. I would just like to add one element to what just Nico said about the selection criteria, and stress the fact that we also carefully analyze the fit between the startups and Bocconi for Innovation. Can we actually contribute to the development of these startups? Do we have industry expertise? Do we have a network? Do we understand the technology? Do our partners understand the technology? If the answer is yes, then, and the other criteria are like above bar, then we give green lights. So let's start with the pre-acceleration phase, and then we go to the acceleration startup. Lorenzo, where do you want to be in 5 years?
I think agriculture, which is the industry we operate in, hasn't changed much in the last 30 years. What we believe is that in the next 5 to 10 years, agriculture will be revolutionized, and we want farmers everywhere in the world to have access to simple to use tools for agriculture, for digital agriculture. So our vision, our horizon toward the 5 years is that farmers all around Europe, and maybe also it's a bit different, but also in the US and in Asia, can use WAPI for their daily activities. This is our vision and the vision we believe in about WAPI.
Marcus, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm still muted. Sorry. How many team members do you have in your team, Lorenzo? And what are their skills?
We are 5. We have an agronomist, of course. I'm a management engineer. Luigi studied finance. Vincenzo is the head of marketing, and Paolo is our CTO. Is like IT guy. Is a software developer for that. You need, like as Nico said before, is the 3 universities or statale. We are a good example of how the two universities can work together. Because we are from Politecnico, the project was born as a Politecnico di Milano project, but then there are no agronomists at Politecnico di Milano, and that's why, for example, we needed Camilla. She studied at Statale di Milano, but you need collaboration between different skills, and you don't find every skill at every university. So I totally agree with what Nico said about it.
Yeah, true. Open innovation. So that's also the mantra that we have in B4i. We try to collaborate and not close down and own everything, but actually create innovation through collaboration. Thank you very much, Nadia. Vision, team members, skills.
Perfect. So, well, healthcare is undergoing change as many other industries, and it's going towards consumerization, which is not necessarily a bad word. It means that users, so patients and also doctors, want to have systems that are more fit to their needs and they are easy to use. So in 5 years from now, we want to be the platform that contributes to patients being able to easily see a doctor same day, and doctors having a good way to manage their patients easily without headaches, and just having new patients, seeing their regular patients, and using our platform to do so. So we want to be part of the system that does that, and growing international platform, especially for the travelers industry, because it's a global market and travelers are everywhere. And in terms of perspectives, and our team right now is just the core team. So we're 4 people fully committed to the project, and we're expanding and growing. We're recruiting currently marketing, operations, and other professionals for our core team, which is growing the platform. And in 5 years from now, hopefully we will have gone through possibly an exit, or we'll be working towards that.
Okay, thank you very much, Nadia. A question for you, Nico, from the audience. Can you describe in a few words what the contents of the acceleration program are?
Yeah, sure. We divide it into 3 large blocks. The first one being basically product, the second sales and marketing, and the third fundraising. So within these 3 blocks, we then organize and organize seminars and work group sessions where we try and focus on these core elements. And we work with the Scrum methodology. So every 2 weeks, as you were saying, there's a sprint, which means that with the entrepreneurs, we go through the objectives and milestones for those 2 weeks, see if they reached them. If they didn't, why? What can we do to make sure we reach them next time? And one thing that I haven't mentioned is that we have, we focus on 3 main verticals. So we have the digital vertical, which is digital tech. So that is quite broad. It's basically any enabling technology that we can work with, from AI through to AR and VR. So it can be anything from fintech, right through to legal tech or reg tech and so on. Then we have made in Italy, so that's fashion, food, and furniture. And then we have sustainability, which means anything that relates to circular economy, smart cities, connected cities, and climate change. So we have 3 heads of vertical and 1 program manager. So these 4 people constantly provide feedback and support to the entrepreneurs. And as I was saying, we always try and open the right doors at the right time when it comes to looking for concrete business development opportunity. Another thing that the program provides is, for example, legal clinics, which are sessions specifically dedicated to, not surprisingly, legal issues. So it could be anything from revising or changing the statutes. And for example, one of the companies in the acceleration program has become a benefit corporation thanks to the support of the legal clinics. We provide communications support. We provide support when it comes to setting up accounts as well. And then there's also a series of discounted services such as AWS credits, segment credits for digital marketing, Ubenda, which is for legal support, Stripe, so for online payments and PSPs. And there's access to the databases and basically as big a network as we can provide.
Thank you, Nico. Pretty clear. It's a tough program. You're a bit stressed, but you should be stressed, right? You have only 4 months, and after the 4 months, you need to move on and be ready to take the next step. Another question from the audience is, how do you actually find complementary skills and co-entrepreneurs while you're developing the idea? Lorenzo mentioned that you found you needed an agronomist, and you found it in Statale. So what's this, your personal network?
Yeah, she was from our personal network. Of course, we don't have much of an experience about this because we are a newly born company. But yeah, I think it's super important. Most great business ideas come from, let's say, university project. But when you're doing a university project, you're working with people with your same background, so you need to use your personal network. I think that being part of programs like B4i, for example, helps us also to attract new people that may complement our skills, and that's a huge value, because B4i and acceleration program, which with this level can also attract talent, even from the point of view of startups, and that's value, in my opinion. Yes. Because it's very difficult for a startup to convince people to work for free for some months.
for future equity, hopefully.
Yeah, of course, for equity, but at the beginning you're working for free. So having a quality signal of an institution like Bocconi, like B4i, is something valuable for sure.
Yeah. So if you want to learn how to manage a business, why don't you create a business and try to experiment with this? It's a good way of learning. And this is also a service, by the way, that, as you mentioned, that the B4i is offering. We have a dedicated team that is helping startups to find the right people, the right skills. It's a person from a well-known, a former partner of a well-known executive search company that actually provides this service. We are getting to the end of this session. I'm Swiss German, so I need to finish at 6 o'clock in 1 minute. So otherwise, I'm suffering like physically. I would just like to first of all remind you that the call for applications for the acceleration program is open until the 19th of July, and as I mentioned before, on the 2nd of July at 5 o'clock, we make another info session live. Obviously, feel free to send us emails and contact us in any other way through the B4i website or directly via email. To close, I just would like to thank Nico Valentigato, Nadia, and Lorenzo for your time. Thank you, and your insights. Thank you very much, and all the best for the future. I hope your visions are going to be achieved. Thank you very much, and to the audience, thanks for connecting.
And thanks, Marcus, for becoming moderator at the last minute.
Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Bye.